Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Anthony, I'm with The Stack, and it is no secret that black in the Digimon TCG is one of, if not the most, underpowered color in the whole game. So I made it a part of my goal to not only be a black tamer, like a black player in the Digimon community, but also to try to really bring out the most of it, bring out the most of the color without having to do a Diabormon deck or a Black War Greymon deck. So I'm going to show you two decks here that are competitively viable. The first one I'm going to show you is a bit budget. I'm going to show you a couple options between them. I'm going to show you a defensive option, an aggressive option, and an option where you have a little bit more money to be able to flex on the deck, right? And then the second deck that I'm going to show you, it's going to be a little bit identical to the first one, but the game plan is just going to be altered just a tiny bit. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So normally, deck profiles start off with the Digitama. Instead, I'm going to start off with this card here. This is the main card of the whole entire deck. This card carries the deck. It is Final Zubagon Punch. It's a common, it's cheap, but it does so much for the deck. Basically, let me go ahead and read it out for you. It says, one of your Digimon gets plus 3000 DP until the end of your opponent's next turn. Then, if that Digimon has 16,000 DP or more, that Digimon gains blocker, reboot, and security attack +1 until the end of your opponent's next turn. So quite a few buffs that you're getting in just a 2-cost option card, plus 3000 DP, blocker, and reboot, right? So those are great for defense, but you also have the security attack +1 for offense. So we're building our deck around this card. The second deck also is going to be built around this card right here. Forget Diabormon, forget Black War Greymon. This is what's going to be carrying us. So we got Final Zubagon Punch. So now we're going to get into our Digitama, which is Kapurimon from the black starter deck. It gives plus 1000 DP to a Digimon that has blocker. Pretty self-explanatory. We're only running this guy, 4 of this guy, because we want to be consistent with this deck. If we run another Digitama, and I have, sometimes the consistency could be a little messed up, and you won't be able to hit that 13,000 DP mark for Final Zubagon Punch. You have to be at least 13,000 DP, so you get the plus 3,000 DP, hit 16,000, and you get all the buffs afterwards, right? So we're only doing 4 Kapurimon with plus 1,000 DP to blockers, right? Now, next up, we're just doing 2 Chumon. Chumon, honestly, it's okay. It comes up sometimes. It comes up against Lilith Loop. It does little to nothing against stopping Blinding Ray in yellow decks because it's so easy to do a minus 1,000 DP like this and just remove it, and which they're gonna do if they want to get out their Blinding Ray plays. It's okay against blue, against Hex Blaumon. You're almost feeding them by having a Digimon in play without sources because Sora and Joe, they're gonna benefit from that. So I'm a little in between about this card, but I still run the 2, just in case. There's some times where it's like, this is nice to have. Then our next card of choice is going to be Toy Agumon, probably one of the best rookies in all of black, giving reboot, being able to reboot your blockers if you've done an attack with them to have them ready to attack again. To have them ready to defend. I really like him because he is able to reboot your blockers so that they're able to defend again on the following turn, and also just keeps your Digimon safe after a swing. You swing and you don't have to worry about them being attacked on the following turn. So pretty nice. Really like Toy Agumon with reboot. Pretty self-explanatory what he does. Then we run 4 copies of Gatsumon. Now, the reason why I run Gatsumon over Agumon as a rookie blocker is because of that 3000 DP, which matters more than you think, right? It stops Vmon with jamming, right? So if you have Agumon in play and there's a Vmon jamming on your opponent's side, they can swing, they don't have to worry too much, they'll take out your Agumon, whatever, no big deal. Another thing too is that he's just a little bit harder to remove, especially against the yellow matchup. So like I said with Chumon, and the same thing applies to Toy Agumon, they're both 1000 DP. Even the Digitama has minus 1000 DP. You have Koromon, you have Pikmon, you have ways to do minus 1000 DP easy. Minus 3000 DP in the early game at least, it's a little more tricky to do. So I like to have Gatsumon out. I especially like him towards the late game as well. And now with this next card, you're going to see a little bit more of the direction we're going with. We have Ludomon. So Ludomon is a searcher rookie. On play, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck and add 1 RagnaLordmon and Legend Arms to your hand. Now, here's the thing about Ludomon. we're not playing like 4 Littlemon and 2 Zubagon so that we could maximize our searches. I've seen that in a lot of deck profiles. We're only running 3 because the level 6s and 7s are the only legend arms like Ragna pieces. We don't run any level 4s or level 5 Ragna pieces, only 6s and 7s, which means we're not going to want to play him like early game. If we don't have all the pieces in our hand, we don't want to play him and miss out on a bunch of level 4s that we wouldn't have wanted or level 5s that we wouldn't have wanted. Our only Ragna pieces are 6 and 7. And so we only play 3. In the next, when I show you the more splurgy, more expensive kind of builds, it's going to go down to 1. We don't want to search that often with this card, but it's still nice when it comes up to be able to go into Ragna when it happens. Next card is going to be Sealsdramon, right? So we're just doing the 1 Sealsdramon, and we're doing alongside him the 1 MacLeod. They're kind of like 2 techie cards for blocking, right? So the reason why that I run Sealsdramon over Dark Tyrannomon is mainly because of his 6,000 DP. So that means Shaman DX can't remove him with his effect. Needhogmon cannot bounce him to the bottom of the deck with Needhog's effect. Alteress, if there's a level 5 over him, can't Digivolve and then kill him. And so Sealsdramon oftentimes is just a really safe level 4 to have him play oftentimes. And so that's why I have him, and it's a similar reason for MacLeod, except he just stomps out not just Rookie Rush, but also Diaboromon tokens. Because Diaboromon tokens are 3,000 DP, he's 6,000, and can block an infinite amount of times. When this Digimon deletes an opponent's Digimon in battle and survives, unsuspend it. So he is blocking nonstop. I don't care what you're doing with your Diaboromon deck. If you can't get rid of him, then I'm blocking all of your tokens, and you're going to have to figure out another game plan. So they're good as tech cards. They're good as one-offs for each, but I wouldn't run a full set of each. That 3 cost to Digivolve, it's a little hefty, and I do want to be tempo efficient with this deck, which brings me into our next set of level 4s. I'm going to just put them back to back. We have Tankmon and Numamon. 1 cost to Digivolve on both, and Numamon I can hard play if I need to and move up from there. And that's pretty much it. Just tempo cards helps me to keep moving faster. And we play a majority of these because we don't want to rely too much on our level 4s. There's no inheritables on our level 4s. So these guys are just situational techs, and these guys are the main guys that we want to see when we're building up, right? So now we're going to go into our level 5s. We have Megadramon here. So Megadramon gives the inheritable of blocker, which means our level 6s are going to get the plus 1,000 DP from Koporimon, whether they're a blocker naturally or they're not. They're always going to get that plus 1,000, and a little bit of a spoiler alert, they're all 12,000 DP minimum, which means that we're going to hit that 13,000 DP requirement for Final Zubagon Punch later on. So that's super nice. And then having a big blocker in play, like who doesn't want that? That's super cool. That's super strong. Depending on how big your blocker is, it could stop your opponent sometimes. And then our next level 5 is going to be Gogmamon. Now, Gogmamon is a very versatile Digimon. He's probably the best card in black for the Digimon TCG. Right off the bat, he gives plus 1,000 as an inheritable on all turns. So that means your level 6 is going with, even, though you're not getting the buff from Koporimon, you're going to get the buff from Gogmamon. You'll be at 13,000 DP. Boom. Final Zubagon Punch is ready and good to go. On top of that, his Digiburst 1, right? Just 1 card that you have to Digiburst gives plus 2,000 DP until the end of your opponent's next turn, which means you can buff your blockers, which is cool. I don't use it really that often for that. Maybe sometimes I'll buff my level 6s that are already in play just to protect them from certain things. But one of the cool things too is that you could use it on himself, and then you could, if you have a 4, 3, and 2 under him, you could boost him all the way up to 13,000 DP, and you'll be able to Final Zubagon Punch him, which is super nice. And so you got a 16,000 DP level 5 hitting that's going to reboot and be ready to block next turn. Mind you, you could Digivolve over him. This is insane, right? You do the Digiburst, right? You give him Final Zubagon Punch, he's at 13,000 DP. Then you Digivolve him into a level 6. He's going to be a level 6 with, I believe it's 22,000 DP, which is insane. Yellow, have fun trying to get rid of that. and red have fun trying to get over that to try to swing over it. Red can though, red can. I'm not even gonna lie, but it's still like insanely huge. It's not often that happens, but it's pretty cool when it does. Now we're gonna go into our level 6s here. For our level 6s, we are doing 2 copies of RagnaLordmon and 3 copies of Durandamon. We're running 3 Durandamon and 2 RagnaLordmon in the budget build because Durandamon is going to be able to take advantage of one of our tamers that I'll show you in a moment. You probably already know, you could guess. But other than that, they're Ragna pieces. You give blocker, you give piercing. We also don't mind too much that we have less bribe because Megadramon also gives blocker. So that's 6 Digimon that have the capacity of giving our RagnaLordmon blocker when they come in. So, like I said before, they're both 12,000 DP, so you don't even have to wait for RagnaLordmon to start putting in work. You can start doing damage with these guys until RagnaLordmon comes out. Sometimes RagnaLordmon doesn't even need to come out because of how much these guys can do on their own. So that's pretty cool. You get the piercing from Durandamon, nice little icing on the cake once you go into your RagnaLord. Now before we go into RagnaLord, the one more tech that I want to put here is Craniamon. We run 2 copies of that. The reason why, by the way, he's so cheap. He's so cheap, and he's going to be so good in the upcoming meta, just so you know. In BT5 coming up, you're going to have the 3 Musketeers, which are deleting stuff left and right. You're going to have Agumon Bond of Courage, delete stuff that's 13,000 DP and under. Yeah, there's going to be like a lot of deletion going on in the upcoming meta, and his ability is so good for protecting your board against red and purple. So it goes 1 blocker by nature. So you put him over Gagumon, he has blocker. That's pretty cool. He'll be at 14,000 DP on your turn with Gagumon and Kaporimon. Neat. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that all turns, your Digimon with blocker cannot be deleted by your opponent's effects, which is huge. Huge, huge, huge. Especially for the red and purple matchup. That means when you're going up against a red player, Gaia Force ain't got nothing on you. Shaman DX ain't got nothing on you. Even BT5 War Greymon, the one that deletes a blocker when it comes into play, not with Craniamon out. And so this gives you the ability to start building a fortress in front of your opponent that they just can't get past. A big fortress, mind you, with some tall pillars, because again, Final Zubagon Punch is going to work for him too if you have Gagumon. And let's say for whatever reason, you don't get Kaporimon for any of your level 6s. You just got to be able to hard play a Numamon, You hard play a Numamon, and then you go Gagumon over it, and you're going to get that plus 1,000 DP. So the consistency is pretty high for this deck. That Digivolving up, a lot of your guys are going to be able to take advantage of Final Zubagon Punch and put in work on your opponent, which is super cool, super nice. The moment that you have been waiting for, the big baddie of this deck is going to be RagnaLordmon. So, I mean, there's really not much to say about RagnaLordmon that hasn't already been said. He gives security attack +1. He has security attack +1 naturally. He has reboot. And when Digivolving, you could place a Durandamon or RagnaLordmon under him to gain 3 memory, effectively making him free. He becomes a free Digi-Evolution, granted if your opponent doesn't have a Chumon, Gazimon, or Terriermon that's stopping you from gaining memory. Other than that, you go into this guy and you're doing huge damage. You couple it with Final Zubagon Punch, you're doing 3 checks, you have Piercing with Durandamon, he's going to reboot and have blocker. Mind you, if you take your time building up, right, and you have Craniamon next to him, now you have a RagnaLordmon that hopefully has RagnaLordmon or Megadramon under him, and he can't be deleted, which is insane. So you get this huge 14,000 DP body, I believe it's 5, 6, 17,000 DP with Final Zubagon Punch. It'll be another 1,000 on top of that, so 18,000 DP body that can't be deleted with Craniamon, that's ready to block, that can pierce through your opponent's blockers. He's just really good, right? And he's super cheap. He's really cheap, level 7. Everything I've shown you so far, it's all budget. Gagumon started off expensive, but now he's super cheap. Megadramon, surprisingly, is also pretty cheap too, because not a lot of people are playing him. So these pieces just work really well together. And then the icing on top of this beautiful cake are our tamers. We have 3 copies of our red tamer Taikamiya. So this is why we play more Durandamon over Bry, and so that you can take advantage of this Tai Kamiya and get 3 checks with Final Zubagon Punch. With RagnaLordmon, you get 4. I actually think there was one time where I was playing against a player that was like pretty defensive, and I actually I had to be really patient, and I put 2 ties out with Ragnar ready, and I did Final Zubagon Punch and took out all 5 of their securities with RagnaLordmon by himself. So Red Tie is going to really support your game plan, and he's also a memory tamer. He does have to be, it does have to be for a red Digimon, and if you don't have 4 or more sources under, you won't be able to get the benefit. So if you go Numemon, Gogumon, then Durandamon, you're not going to be able to get that buff. But if you then go into RagnaLordmon and you add RagnaLordmon, no problem at all. So, you know, make sure you take that into consideration when you're playing this card. And then the last bit of spicy tech to add to your big defensive fortress. This is a mostly like defensive / offensive build, but a little bit more on the defensive side with Craniamon. And this card is going to be the black starter deck Tai Kamiya. Basically what he does is that when you use blocker to suspend one of your Digimon, you can suspend this tamer to unsuspend one of your Digimon. Mind you, it doesn't say that you have to unsuspend a blocker. You can unsuspend any Digimon. So let's say theoretically I swung with Durandamon and I don't have reboot under him, and now my opponent is going to try to punish me and take him out. I could block with Gatsumon, right? Tap this tie and then unsuspend Durandamon so that he's no longer vulnerable to attack. So that's pretty cool the way that works. And then it also just gives you multiple blocks. Being able to block twice with a huge body like RagnaLordmon or any of your Digimon that you used Final Zubagon Punch on is insane. It puts so much pressure on your opponent, making it that much harder for them to get past your board. And then Craniamon being able to support all of your blockers thereafter, it's really good. So yeah, I'm really happy with this combination of cards here. It's pretty good. It's solid. Again, I know this is a majority of BT4 cards, but it still does really well in this meta. But let's say, you know what, Anthony, I want some more BT5 in my life, and I want some more aggression. I really want to I don't want to have to build up a wall and be defensive with Craniamon and stuff like that. I just want to go in. You know, you already have a lot of aggression with Durandamon, RagnaLordmon, Red Tie, and Final Zubagon Punch, but I got you. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to focus more on tempo. So we're going to take out Sealsdramon and Mechanorimon. We're going to put these guys to the side here. And we're going to opt in for Dark Tyrannomon instead. So he has a higher play cost, which means you have a higher chance of seeing a level 4 that you're not going to be able to hard play like that. But that tempo efficiency for 1 to Digivolve, it's nice. It helps you with that aggression to get up quickly and take advantage of that. If you're not worried about defense, you don't really care about protecting your blockers, hey, do Black War Greymon. Him with Final Zubagon Punch, he's doing 3 security checks. As long as you have him over a good line with Megadramon and Kaporimon, or you have him over Gogumon, he's doing 3 security checks, and he could already reboot by himself. Maybe even if you don't have Final Zubagon Punch, you go for those 2 checks, reboot, and you're good to go. So yeah, Black War Greymon is really good for that aggression. Since we're not worrying about blocking too much, we'll take out the Black Starter deck Tai Kamiya, and we'll put in a Takumi Aiba instead. That way you can increase your draw efficiency, draw more into your deck, and get those pieces that you need quicker so that you don't have to wait. You already have the Searcher in Ludomon. Takumi Aiba is just that extra little spice, that little sizzle to help you continue faster. So this is, I would say, the aggressive part that uses BT5 cards more. Let's go into a little bit more pricey deck. So we're gonna take out some cards here. We're gonna take out, let's see, 2 copies of Ludomon, 1 copy of Gatsumon, and 1 copy of Chumon. So we're gonna take those guys out. I'm going to just take these 2 guys out, put back our Craniamons and our ties, right? So we're gonna put in 4 copies of Sonorizamon, and we're gonna make an adjustment up here. We're gonna take out a Durandamon and opt in for an extra RagnaLordmon instead, in combination with the Sonorizamon. And here's the reason why. Rizamon is specific to black Digimon. Final Zubagon Punch is not. You could use that on any color Digimon, but to get the bonuses from Rizamon, it has to be black and 13,000 DP. So that's no problem, the 13,000 DP part. Durandamon is only going to be able to benefit from Tai, unfortunately. So we go a little heavier on the RagnaLordmon because we already have a lot of big body red Digimon. So let's supplement the Rizamon, right? Let's switch it up a little bit so that we can have more opportunities to use Rizamon. So it gives security attack +1 to a 13,000 DP black Digimon, and it also gives piercing. The piercing is okay. I think the setup is a little bit much to be able to get off, but it does come up every now and then, and it's a really nice tech. And the one more piece of tech I would put in, if you had a little bit more money to splurge, I would opt out one RagnaLordmon instead for a Omnimon Alter S. Alter S is really good. For the same reasons that Ultimate Flare isn't that good right now, Alter S isn't that good right now. He cannot get rid of a lot of the bodies that Lord Nightmon can bring out. So Lord Nightmon can bring out other Nightmons. They're level 5s that cannot be de-digivolved, and they're, I believe, 7,000 DP. So Alter S can't really answer that. Mind you, you also have Lilith Loop, right? If your opponent is able to get that Lilith Loop off, then they're bringing out level 5s most likely, and Alter S will not be able to answer that. So just the one is okay. There are times where it's going to come in clutch, and your opponent is not going to think to play around it, and you'll be able to wipe their board altogether. So it's a good tech for when it comes up. Rizamon promo, also a really good tech. Now, let's talk about the second deck. This was all just one deck. We talked about the budget defensive option, budget aggressive option, and we talked about splurging a little bit. Now we're going to go into the next deck. Okay, so here we are. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Anthony, this looks almost exactly the same as the previous deck. You just removed a couple pieces. I know. The game plan still remains identical, but it's different enough to still have its own advantages. So a lot of the cards are the same. I did take out Ludomon and put Gatsumon back in. RagnaLordmon's going to stay, Craniomon's going to stay, Alter S is going to stay, and I'm going to show you what's going to fill in the slots. So we are going to put another Craniomon in, just because when you, in certain matchups, you really do want to see him. Even if you're not that much of a defensive player, you like to play aggressively. Sometimes that defense is just, it's too good not to have it. I mean, that's a lot of black, right? That's the consistent part of black that has stayed throughout the sets. There have been some archetypes that are different in their game plan, but blocking is black's thing. So we put in a Craniomon for that extra bit of defensive spice. We still have Rizamon. Now you have an even higher chance of being able to take advantage of that security attack +1 combined with the final Zubagon Punch, right? We're going to add some spice alongside our Omnimon Alter S. We're going to run 3 Zwart Defeats. Now, Zwart Defeat is really, really good. When he comes out of security, he's already hitting that 13,000 DP requirement, so we can final Zubagon Punch him. Another thing to consider as well is that ability just to delete tamers, and the fact that he's a Digimon that your opponent is going to think twice before removing because of that big punishing factor of removing one of your opponent's Digimon. So that's pretty cool. And just being able to play it out of security is really nice. So we got our Omnimons there. Let's talk about our Tamer. So we're no longer running that red tie. Instead, we're opting for an Izzy Azumi. Now that we have less red cards here, we have a higher chance of playing this card, revealing the top 3, and getting all black cards and gaining a memory. It's also good now that we don't have a searcher. He's not the best searcher, he's okay. But there are times where I play him, rearrange the top 3, and it works in my favor. Sometimes, right? Not every search is a win. We're going to do Tai Kamiya and Matt Ashida so that our Omnimons can benefit from the security attack +1, but also so that it can work in tandem with Izzy to get you more memory gain when your opponent has a level 6 or higher in play. Super nice. And then we have one last card. Now, if you saw our last YouTube video, you have to have saw this coming. There's no way you didn't see this coming. We're playing Omnimon X Antibody on top of the other Omnimons. This card is so amazing. Like I said in the previous video, there's still a lot of people who don't know what this card does. It's underutilized. We only run 1 because, of course, it cannot digivolve over any of our level 6s, only over these guys. But when it happens, it's amazing. It's a great feeling. Ideally, your memory is going to be at 3 when you do it. He's only 3 to digivolve over another Omnimon, and you get to just delete something immediately upon your first swing. And then your opponent has a huge body in play that they really have to worry about. It puts so much pressure on them, because before, you're just setting up your blockers and you're just like, trying to get into the security. They could block some of it. You don't really have piercing that much aside from Rizamon. And so, it's kind of like your wall versus their wall, and them trying to get past your wall. But with X Antibody, now you're posing a huge threat to all of their Digimon in play. They can't have Digimon in play other than what's in their raising, because he's going to delete everything. And I played with this deck. I took it to locals, and it actually, it got up there. Out of, I think, 25-ish players, I got top 8, beating out some yellow decks, Lilith Loop decks. This deck right here is really, really good. Again, it's consistent, just like the previous deck, and it works really well for what it's trying to do. So, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been my deck profiles, these 2 decks here. I would give them both a try. Give this one a try. See if you like it. Comment below. Let me know if you think there are any adjustments that I can make. Anything you would do differently. If you think the game plan is even viable. I think that it is. And I also have another video upcoming to show you one more deck profile for a black deck that topped. It got first place in one of my locals recently. But that's a video for another day. Anyways, like, subscribe, comment. Hope you enjoyed the video, and stay stacking.